I arrived at what I believed was Jake's apartment, a quaint little spot perched on the city's edge. It would be our first face to face meeting after weeks of playful messages and discovering shared passions. My heart drummed with excitement, laced with a hint of anxiety. I knocked once, hesitated, then knocked again. Silence. After a few moments, I grabbed my phone and shot him a text. "Hey, I'm outside. Just waiting for you." I sent the message and began pacing along the sidewalk, eyes flicking up to the windows, eager for a glimpse of him. Instead, an unexpected chill crept down my spine, raising the hairs on my neck. 10 minutes ticked by, and just as I was about to text again, a faint sound reached my ears. A chair scraping inside the apartment. Curiosity piqued. I knocked once more, this time with more urgency. Still no answer. Was he even home? My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. A message from Jake read,
Sorry, I'm running late. Be there soon.
Relief washed over me, yet an inexplicable unease lingered. Opting to wait outside, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. An eerie silence enveloped the street. Just as I considered settling on a nearby bench, footsteps approached. An older man emerged from the shadows, his jacket threadbare and demeanor unkempt. His gaze shifted from me to the door, a fleeting wave of dread coursing through me.
Is everything all right?
Um, just waiting for someone, I replied, striving for nonchalance.
Jake?
He asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. Yeah, you know him?
Yeah, we're friends.
His grin was unsettling, and instinct urged me to retreat. Then, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Jake.
Please leave. I can't explain right now.
Panic surged. My instincts screamed at me to flee. I didn't pause to ponder the danger. I bolted, the sensation of eyes burning into my back urging me faster. I didn't stop until I reached a bustling street, heart pounding, realizing how narrowly I had evaded a potentially nightmarish encounter.
I was eagerly anticipating my first date with Rachel. We had met on a dating app and instantly hit it off. She suggested a trendy bar downtown, famous for its vibrant atmosphere and inventive cocktails. I arrived early feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. When she walked in, her smile lit up the entire room. We fell into easy conversation, laughter flowing freely over our drinks. However, as the night progressed, something unsettling began to unfold. Rachel repeatedly glanced at her phone, her expression shifting from happiness to concern. Each time she stepped away to take a call, unease coiled in my stomach. I tried to dismiss it. Everyone juggles life's hiccups, right? Yet after the fourth call, I couldn't resist asking, "Is everything okay?" She hesitated, a flicker of something, fear perhaps, crossing her face before she masked it with a smile.
Yeah, just some family stuff. Don't worry about it.
But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. As we continued talking, I noticed a man at a nearby table watching us intently. He was tall, with a scruffy beard, and his gaze never wavered. I glanced at Rachel and saw she was staring at him too. The air around us thickened with tension. Rachel excused herself again, and I decided to confront the stranger. "Do you know her?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He chuckled darkly, leaning back in his chair.
You could say that. We have a history.
"Listen, I don't know what your deal is, but I think you should leave her alone." He leaned in, his eyes narrowing.
You don't know what you're getting into. Just be careful.
My heart raced as I watched him pick up his phone and send a message. Something about the way he smiled made my skin crawl. When Rachel returned, her face was flushed.
Sorry about that.
She said, her voice barely concealing her distress.
We should go.
As we left, I could feel the man's gaze burning into our backs. Outside, the cool air hit my face, but I couldn't shake off the growing sense of dread.
I need to tell you something. It's important.
"What is it?" I replied, my heart racing.
Let's just get in the car first.
I glanced back at the bar, where the man stood watching us through the window. a sinister smile curling his lips. Every instinct screamed at me to run, yet I was already too deep into a night I desperately wished to escape. I was thrilled about my first date with Laura. We had bonded over our love for art and music, and after weeks of exchanging messages, we finally decided on a cozy cafe downtown. I arrived early, nerves tingling with anticipation. When she walked in, my heart skipped a beat. She looked even more enchanting than her pictures, a warm smile and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies. We settled down, and initially the conversation flowed effortlessly. We discussed our favorite bands and art exhibits. I felt an immediate connection. But as the minutes ticked by, I sensed something was amiss. Laura's smile didn't quite reach her eyes, and a subtle tension clung to her demeanor. Then, halfway through our coffee, she abruptly changed the subject.
What do you think about loyalty?
She asked, her tone suddenly serious. Caught off guard, I paused. Loyalty? It's crucial in any relationship. Her expression darkened, a shadow crossing her face.
Even when it's inconvenient?
A chill crept down my spine. I suppose so. Can you give me an example? She leaned in closer, her voice dropped to a whisper that sent shivers down my spine.
Imagine someone close to you is in trouble, and you must make a choice. Do you stand by them, no matter what? Even if they've done something unforgivable?
I hesitated, unsure how to respond. I guess it depends on the situation. Laura smiled again, but it felt more like a mask than genuine warmth.
That's a weak answer.
Trying to break the tension, I attempted to lighten the mood. Everyone has their limits. She laughed softly, but it was devoid of joy.
What if they cross that line? What if they hurt someone? Would you still stand by them?
Anxiety crept in. Laura, are you talking about someone specific? Just then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression shifting.
I need to take this.
She stood abruptly and walked outside, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. As I sat there, a growing sense of unease settled over me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced around and noticed a man at the bar, staring intently at me. He was lean, with a scar running down his cheek. Realization dawned. He was with Laura. When she returned, her eyes flickered with something darker, something unsettling.
Let's go.
Her voice low. Is everything okay? I asked, my unease mounting.
Just trust me.
She replied, her smile now completely absent. I didn't know what I was getting into, but as I stood up to leave, a sense of dread settled in, as heavy as the darkness lurking behind her eyes.
I was thrilled about my first date with Mark. We had met online and exchanged messages for weeks, bonding over our love for hiking and the outdoors. He suggested a picnic in a secluded park famous for its scenic views, and I thought it sounded perfect. When we arrived, the sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over everything. We found a quiet spot under a large oak tree, and a rush of happiness filled me as we spread out the blanket. We chatted and laughed, unpacking the food he'd prepared: sandwiches, fruit, and a bottle of wine. Everything seemed idyllic. But as we ate, I noticed something unsettling. Mark kept glancing around nervously, his smile fading intermittently. I brushed it off, assuming he was anxious about the date. "Are you okay?" I asked, attempting to lighten the mood.
Yeah, it's peaceful out here.
He replied, but his eyes darted around, scanning the tree line. A flicker of unease crept in, but I chose to ignore it, reminding myself this was supposed to be a fun evening. As we finished our meal, Mark stood up and wandered a few steps away, looking toward the woods.
I'll be right back.
He said. I watched him disappear behind the tree, my heart racing with an inexplicable sense of dread. Minutes passed and he still hadn't returned. I called out, "Mark?" but there was no response. Anxiety clawed at my insides as I got up to look for him. The woods felt thicker now, shadows dancing in the fading light. I stepped cautiously, calling his name again. When I finally spotted him, he was talking to a man I hadn't noticed before. Tall, with a scruffy beard and a baseball cap pulled low. I hesitated, feeling a wave of panic wash over me. The man was gesturing animatedly, and Mark's face was tense.
I wanted to turn back, but I couldn't leave without knowing what was happening. I stepped closer, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, the man turned his gaze toward me, a sinister grin spreading across his face.
Who's this?
He asked, his voice dripping with mockery. Mark glanced back at me, eyes wide with something that looked like fear.
It's nothing.
He stammered, but I could see the truth, the tension, the fear, the urgency in his voice. Let's go, I said, feeling the weight of danger in the air. But as I turned to leave, the man stepped in front of me, blocking my path.
I think you should stay a little longer.
He said, his tone filled with threat. My heart raced, realizing I had stumbled into something far more dangerous than a simple picnic.